Welcome in, everybody, to the first episode of the Pipeline Podcast, your inside information for the Tulsa Whalers. I'm Zack Reynolds, joined alongside by Luke Hamilton, of course, head coach Rob Murray. As you know, the season is rapidly approaching, getting down to those triple-digit days, but it always seems to come up quicker. But you mentioned at the end of last season, the off season and the next season, they start the day after, right? I mean, there's really no gap in between. But over this summer, did you have anything exciting that you got up to or with the family?
Not really. We're just kind of trying to beat the heat, obviously, as most of us in Tulsa are right now. We just kind of been hanging out and doing a few things. Boys are doing a lot of fishing, and Zachary, my oldest, got a job at Battle Creek, whippersnipping every day, which in this heat again, and it's got to be horrendous, but good on him. But we're just kind of, summertime. We just every day is just kind of a new adventure, I guess. I mean, we try to do something, and once again, trying to beat the heat. How about yourself?
Well, for me, it's been a pretty good summer. Been a bit relaxing at times. We got to go out to Vegas for league meetings, which is good. Got to see the family a couple of times. It's always hard during the season with weekend games happening. It's hard to link up with people and catch up. Caught a couple weddings as well, so it's been strong for me, and I think Luke's had a pretty good off season too.
Yeah, I was going to say that was my first trip out to Vegas for league meetings this year. It's a different kind of heat, to say the least, but really enjoyable. Kind of nice to see everybody in the league and kind of get a recap of what the 21-22 season saw. And then, again, league meetings come around, and then a blink of an eye, you're already preparing for 22-23 from every aspect of the organization, and then it's here. So it's been a fun summer, but a quick summer. So.
It certainly has. And we take a look last season, obviously success, making the playoffs, going with 7 games in the first round, and we saw a really strong series against Utah. And last time the Oilers made the playoffs in the offseason, you had talked about trying to maintain a nucleus, bring back some guys that were obviously good for the room, but on the ice as well. And this summer, is that maybe kind of the same mind approach you're having? Of course, last year's team was so young, tons of rookies. It was like that across the league. Has this off-season recruitment period maybe been a little bit closer to the norm than what we saw after the pandemic?
Well, yes. I mean, take last year, for example. We had going into training camp, we had 3 returning players. And I honestly think that we hit a few home runs on a couple of guys that came in. Jack Remus, Eddie Matsushima, Doogie LeGrone, Alex Gilmore, Daniel Manella for sure. These were all unknown guys coming to training camp. Now, honestly, like you hope you're doing the right job in recruiting, doing your homework, getting the right personnel. You just never know until training camp starts. And Jimmy Soper, another guy. So with the 3 guys, we had from the previous year would have been Pleshkash, McKee, and Crom. We were starting from scratch, and we had a good, that being said, you would have thought maybe the season would have went kind of opposite, where, we wouldn't have started strong because everybody's trying to figure it out. Now, we had a very strong start, and it helped quite a bit, because every year you're going to hit those slumps, and you're going to lose a good handful of games in a row, but we had put ourselves in position that we could, I guess there was a buffer there. And whereas I think in the couple previous years, we put ourselves behind the 8 ball and we're chasing throughout the whole season. So with the majority of guys being so young, we had 16 rookies on the roster last year at any given time. With that being said, the majority of these guys coming back, honestly, we should hit training camp, just running, because all these guys that are coming back, once again, know the systems, know my demands, my expectations, and through accountability within the team, should be able to bring the newer guys in. The guy, we will have new faces this year, but bring those guys in and basically allow, let them know throughout their conversations or what have you about how things are done here, or again, this is what we do and this is how we play. So my expectations are that training camp, where there won't be as much of the teaching side of it, I think we'll just keep get going real quick. We're going to have a midweek exhibition game in Allen, and which is kind of out of the norm. We usually play the 2 games on the following weekend. We're going to play a Wednesday night game in Allen, so I think we'll be before the first preseason game. I think we'll be on the ice for 3 or 4 days, if that. And so it gets going real quick this year. And but with the returning guys, just in theory, it should be a big advantage.
And kind of to build on that too, you talk about in theory, there should be that advantage of that regeneration of these players coming back and reestablishing themselves in the same system. Have you learned anything just as a coach that's been through the recruiting process so many times, maybe about the newer generation of players that have been coming up here? You've got a lot of young guys that you were able to recruit last year. Is there anything, I guess, you're seeing nowadays, maybe with as generations move along with younger players coming in that are some attributes that you look at or notice in players that are coming in nowadays, whether they be anywhere from the age, obviously, around 20 to 22, some of the younger end players to guys that are kind of in their prime?
Well, there's a feeling out process. I think a lot of guys, regardless of what level you played at, you come in here, you don't know what to expect sometimes. And when you see a guy get off to a slow start, I think that's the reason. He's kind of just standing around watching. You know what I mean? Like I'll use Carson Denomi last year as an example. Like Carson was a very good player for us, but I mean he was deer in the headlights for the first 10, 15 games, just trying to basically take everything in and absorb it and then try to figure it out. Like after Christmas, he was really good and consistent. But prior to that, and I knew, and I've said through interviews with you guys that you saw it, you could see it in him, and just we had to bring it out of him. And it wasn't that it wasn't there; it was just he was kind of holding back. One of the biggest things, Luke, that I've noticed, and it's nothing new, but I think coming out of the COVID years, especially because these guys playing either in college or junior, their schedules were so condensed. And that being said, they hadn't played in 2 years, basically 2 years. They hadn't played a good bulk of hockey. And, I see it at about the 35, 40 game mark every year with a lot of the younger guys. Is they've never played this many games. And so there is a wall that guys hit at that point where you gotta push through. We play 72 games. I mean, you know our schedule. I mean, yeah, we got 3 games in the first 2 weeks of the season this year. I haven't looked at it close enough, but I guarantee you we got 10 and 12 somewhere in the schedule, right? So it is, you are going, full out all season long, and accompanied with travel, practicing every day. It becomes a learned skill to kind of get over that hump at that, as I said, the 40 game mark plus, where these guys have never played as much hockey. Maybe somewhere along the lines, but I'm going to use the COVID years as basically a reason why a lot of these guys just haven't played much hockey in the last couple of years.
We talked about training camp and, of course, having a few more guys returning this season. But when you come to training camp and you have those guys that you have a little bit of expectations about heading in, and then obviously there's those question marks. Fans, broadcasters, we all like to kind of play armchair coach, GM, scout, whatever it is, and you kind of get your favorites and you sort of latch onto them. But when you're coming in to that first training camp and there's all these question marks, is it kind of hard, or maybe not hard, but is it something you kind of have to wipe the slate clean of the year before and take a look at each guy individually? Because of course, everybody has their favorite players and guys that have performed for them for a long time at times, but maybe they just aren't up to the line where they were before, and things get mixed around. Is it kind of just that mentality coming into training camp, like, hey, I know what to expect out of these guys, but I need to see the same amount of course, hustle and willingness to make the team out of everybody?
Exactly. I mean, training camp is just that. I mean, everybody's job I mean, okay. I mean, maybe not everybody's, but everybody's job is on the line. I mean, you every year it's this league. It's a 1-year contract. I mean, you're not looking at guaranteed contracts like Johnny Gaudreau. That's going to make 100 million for the next 9 years and guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like there is no guarantees at the ECHL level. Now, one of the things that I will be interested in, and you're looking at namely a couple guys, Doremus, Matsushima, Gilmore, these guys had career years last year. Now being, Eddie's never really played at this level, at a consistent level. Gilly was a rookie last year, same with Jack. These guys, prior to college stats, junior stats, they really never had the seasons they had last year. And I have all the confidence in the world that they can repeat that, but this is one of the things you have to watch out for, where these guys were as good and consistent and productive for us. Can they follow it up in a following season? And again, I've got all the confidence in the world they can, but they honestly have set the bar pretty high for themselves and for me, and so that's a challenge to them. And that'll be something to be kind of watched for as the season gets going.
As the burden of proof every year is on the player to continue to perform, what's the communication like, if there is really any, kind of in the off season, on how these guys are approaching taking care of their bodies, making sure that they're getting some ice time somewhere, whether that be back home or elsewhere. The communication between teammates that are going to be teammates for sure next year, getting on the ice together at times. What's that like, just kind of from a coach's perspective and a player's perspective, to make sure that you're ready when the season hits the corner?
Well, a couple of guys that remain in town during the off season. I know they've been skating three mornings a week over at the OIC. Other guys I talk to, I mean, they're. Some of them have jobs, summer jobs in the summer, but the majority of them, if not all of them, I mean, every one of them is they're all on the ice and, preparing for this season. And quite honestly, Luke, it's something that I don't need to monitor it like as much as maybe, I don't know, I've been in the league, 10, 11 years. I mean, back then when I first started, you kind of had to monitor it and make sure these guys were doing the right stuff in the summer. Today's hockey player, it's they leave here at the end of the season. They're on the ice within a week or two. You know what I mean? And I mean, to me, it's a little bit of overkill. I liked as a player just taking the time off from being on the ice. I mean, I was in the gym. I used to run a lot. I would stay in shape, but I would just stay away from the rink, quite honestly. And then later in the summer, we had a good group of guys that I trained with and in the Peterborough area, where we had really good skates, like bunch of pros, NHL guys, American League guys, and we had really good skates at that time. But I mean, to me, again, it's to each his own, but I liked staying away from skating and staying away from that. You get enough of it during the season, but again, the guys that like doing that, and I know they all are. I mean, I talk to, I've gotten into this process basically of getting in touch with guys, and I'll text them first, and I'll say, what's a good time to call you? And 9 out of 10 guys say, well, I'm skating this morning between 11 and 12. Give me a call afterwards. So I know all these guys now, whether they're telling me the truth or not, I don't know. They could be in the middle of a lake drinking beer. I mean, for all I know,
training camp.
Yeah,
sure.
for all I know. But I think again, it's getting back to what we're talking about: earning your spot and having being ready to start training camp strong and the season strong. That is something that goes hand in hand with a good off season training process. That whether it be skating, which will be included, but how much you do. But a lot of it is just maintenance of your body. You don't want to you don't want to see a guy leave here at 190 pounds and show up at training camp at 225. which we've seen in the past. I mean, and that is unacceptable. The onus is on these guys. I mean, it's their. I'm not going to hold their hands. Like if we happen to have some guy like that, well, obviously, the microscope's on him. Like that he's one of those guys that could be easily replaced.
We mentioned some guys that are staying in town, able to skate at the Oilers Ice Center in the mornings now, and it's an exciting time, obviously, having the Oilers Ice Center under the Oilers family after our owner, Andy Skirdo, bought the rink, obviously building the new facility out at the old Macy's building and Promenade Mall, and just having maybe I guess you could say a dedicated space that is the teams, and with the rink, and it's maybe a little bit easier to arrange things throughout the summer for guys that are in town, or just to get guys that are maybe passing through on the ice. How much is kind of maybe taken off your plate, or the stress level of things, just knowing that the Oilers Ice Center is there if the BOK Center is not available, and it'll can kind of continue down that line in the future.
Well, it's great to have that option back on under our roof type thing. That's a question that I've always gotten all through the summer. Namely, guys like Alex Crom, Mike McKee, Adam Pleshkash, Dylan Sadoway's still in town. He's still rehabbing from his knee injury. But so those four guys, I think Doogie was here for a bit. Those guys are always asking me, do you know if there's any ice at the OIC? And we were never able to solidify any kind of ice time for them. They might be able to sneak out with stick and puck or something like that. But this opportunity, they got an hour in the morning of just them. Plus, I think there's a couple of club hockey guys from OSU or OU. I'm not sure, but anyways, they've got a group of guys that go out three mornings a week, and we're trying to actually secure a little bit more ice later in the day, so these guys can go on the ice after work. Now, in saying that, we're talking about the Promenade Mall yesterday, the Macy's building. We were in a meeting with the architects for how it's going to look, what they're planning yesterday. A good long meeting with the group that's doing it. And I'm telling you, it's going to be unreal. It really is. It's going to be so state of the art, and it's going to be a fabulous place. Be it for hockey, figure skating, men's league. I mean, just everything that it will provide for the community is really, really exciting. And it's a little ways down the road. We're looking at 2023. But that being said, once it's here, I think it's just going to be such a boost for local hockey. Youth hockey is going to expand by leaps and bounds. I know Andy's very big into women's hockey, and that I believe in time will probably get some traction. And so it's a real exciting time to be a Tulsa Oiler and work for this organization and work for Andy and all his the things that he's doing within the town here. He hasn't taken much time to get it done either, and that's the thing. Like, he hasn't sat here and said, "Well, I'd like to do this and I'd like to do that." I mean, I come in here every day and there's something new. You know what I mean? That he has either purchased or put the wheels in motion. So, a very, very exciting time to be a hockey fan here in Tulsa. Whether, again, figure skating, all those things that this is going to allow. And getting back to maybe your original point, it was hard for us to get ice time over the OIC. And even us, the Oilers. Like, I mean, if we, for one reason or another, like, let's use an example last year when we were opening night, the chillers broke down at the BOK. And we needed ice at the OIC. There was no ice available. I mean, we went 2 or 3 days without touching the ice. And now, time, or in the future here, with the OIC being still up and running, and then the 2 pads that Andy's putting in over at the Macy's building, there's no way that we will ever be without ice time in Tulsa. Now, it's I know the old timers will tell you, or people that have been around here for a while, oh, we used to have three ice rinks in town. We don't. Now we don't. We only have the one, and there's a lot of demand for it. And for that reason, we kind of got shut out a few times last season, and not so much the year before, but last season for sure. That it was just it was hard to get, and understandably. I mean, it's all booked up, and you can't just kick somebody off their ice. So again, it just a tremendously exciting time to be involved with this team.
And kind of to build on that, I mean, this is just year one, really not even a full calendar year that Andy has been a part of sort of the process of renewing the Oilers in a direction that is going to be incredibly exciting with a trickle-down effect, right? I mean, it's exciting as a coach, it's exciting as a player to be able to get some more opportunities to develop your game, but it trickles down all the way to the fans. I mean, at the end of the day, you ask season ticket holders around town, I mean, this is one of the most memorable years that a lot of them are going to have, and then there's just going to be more so further on. Is there anything kind of that sticks out about this first year under the ownership of Andy Scurto and just the relationships you've had with the players throughout the 21-22 season that you kind of look forward to grabbing a hold of again for next year and building on?
Well, and I think, Luke, I mean, to answer that one, it's a lot of intangibles, and I could go on. I could give you examples every time. When I've got tons in my head right now what the difference is. One of my very first meetings my very first meeting with Andy, and he asked me. He said, "What can I do for you?" And I simply said, do things right. Like basically how other successful teams in our league operate. And he just looked at me and said, yeah, I can do that, but that's the thing. You're looking at, you can look at what a team can do. Well, your constraints really have, there's so many constraints at the ECHL level with salary cap, and then the salary cap extends to what you can do for the guys off the ice. And a lot of times you really can't do much because you're breaking the rules, like team meals, different things that, you can't just splurge on the players and make it, well, we get this, we get that, we get this. We can't do that. And but doing things right. And when I say that, it's simple. I mean, simple, maybe it's hard to quantify that yet. There's little things. I mean, we flew to the places that potentially you should fly to, like Utah, Idaho, Rapid City. Like that was a given. Now, a couple of years ago, not so much. We didn't know whether we're getting to Rapid City. We didn't know whether, back then. So all those things are, for me as the coach, are taken off my plate as a worry. You know what I mean? And Christmas bonus. We really never had a substantial Christmas bonus. This year, as you guys know, I mean, he really took care of the guys within the rules. Like there's a maximum you can give. He gave the maximum. And that's when I say the intangibles. There's little things outside of the game itself that really help in my ability to recruit. And the reason being is I can sit there on the phone and tell guys, well, this is what we get. Bang, 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 bang. But this league is word of mouth. I mean, everybody has a buddy on another team, okay? Like me, dislike me as a coach, an individual player, there's, little things that went on that were not done properly here prior to that got around, and I'd love to come there, but I've heard this and this and this, and I had no argument. It was hard, but now the recruiting process, and it doesn't make it easier. It makes it easier, yet it's a thing that will get better and better. I've used this terminology multiple times where I said it's a destination point. You look at the destination points right now in our league, and guys want to play with the Florida teams because it's Florida. Right. I mean, you want to be a hockey player, or do you want to go to the beach? I mean, but if you can do both,
yeah. Right.
who's kidding who? Idaho has always been a good spot, and just Boise's a hell of a town. Like it's a really nice place. So Utah, Salt Lake City's nice. Toledo's always been a draw, but again, it's a place that it's a hockey hotbed where they've done things right. So that being said, I mean there are certain places where I think a player almost gravitates to wanting to go, whether he ends up there or not. But if he has a wish list at the beginning of the summer, it's probably one of those places. But it gives me a chance to kind of be on the same page as those teams with what Andy has brought to Oilers organization, and I think my time here, I've been here 5 years, going into my 6th year. The city of Tulsa itself, I mean, just in general, I mean, it's growing. I mean, there's so many things like that are really neat about this town and the surrounding area, and again, it's just a situation where it makes it a more level playing field for a team like Tulsa to compete with those other teams in recruiting.
In the description of this episode, we teased that we would do a player announcement, but just a few quick housekeeping things until we give you an update on who we've officially announced and who the new name will be. Ice Girls tryouts. They once again are not allowing me to try out for the squad this year. I don't know why, but
it's the 5th year in a row.
Yeah, I know. One of these days I'll get on the team, but they'll be this Thursday.
There's a height requirement.
Yeah, it's probably what it is exactly. They're like this. He's too short. But they'll have audition classes on the 21st and the 28th of July out at Genesis, and then there's 2 days of auditions, August 12th and August 13th.
What Genesis is that?
That'll be the one out by Genesis Health Club Tulsa, so it's the Woodland Hills location.
Okay, well,
not too far off. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You might have 3 girls going this place.
That's very true.
It'll be on Zack.
And exactly. And you can check out all the info on that on their social media, the Tulsa Oilers Ice Girls, or icegirls@tulsaoilers.com as well. An email if you have any questions. And we also kind of talked about earlier, beating the heat. It's tough. We also talked about the Oilers Ice Center. They're having a Christmas in July skate this Friday, which is, I believe, the 22nd. And with that, wear an ugly Christmas sweater. There's a contest with a prize at it. Santa will be out there as well. And
Santa
will be
I know
there.
that guy.
Right? We'll have a chair and everything. It'll be just like Buddy the Elf with Will Ferrell. And we'll be running some merch specials online with that, too. 25% off until July 25th for the Christmas in July. But as we continue, to what people really want to hear, just a quick recap. Obviously, bringing back Ethan Stewart and Jackson Leaf, which have both been announced, both American players. Ethan Stewart, every goal but one that he scored was either a game-winning goal or a game-tying goal that led to a game-winning goal. And then, of course, you talked about it throughout the season with Jackson Leaf about being able to kind of right the ship a bit and keep the calm level with some of the newer guys and that deer in the headlights. But also now bringing in another returning player, right-handed defenseman that helped out the power play, and John Fergelli. And with those guys, what were your main reasons for bringing each player back this year? Obviously, all 3 of them didn't play the whole season with the team, but when they came, things started to seem to uptick around that time period. Each individual guy, kind of where do you see them fitting in, and what was the process in getting them back here?
Well, Fergie's a guy that, I really got for nothing. It was a trade with Worcester, and I had traded the goaltender Padera. Padera?
Yeah, Padera.
Yeah. Sorry. And,
yes, it is. Yeah.
So many guys that come through sometimes. Traded him for $1 to Worcester, just kind of a favor. And then Pergelli became available, and I called there, and basically, they sold him to me for $1 back. So, but he came in. He solidified our power play, which, I mean, maybe it's a stretch to say solidify it. We still weren't, where we needed to be yet. He brought that element. An undersized guy, but he didn't seem to get himself in trouble because of his size. He's elusive enough and cagey enough on the ice that he wasn't a guy that was getting hammered every night because he didn't have his head up. But I think that he brought a lot to, he was another guy that it was a piece of the puzzle that we're going along where we brought guys in that improved our team incrementally, and he was a guy that I really liked. Nice kid, really. Again, what you like to see is guys that care and are dedicated to their craft, and he's one of those guys. Now, he had told me that beginning of the summer that he was on the fence about re-signing or even playing again. And I qualified him, and he signed his qualifying offer, which kind of surprised me because of our conversation where I thought he might not even be playing this year. So that's, it's nice to have that done and that he's back in the fold. Stewie was a guy that we brought in that I think that just his little things that he does, the intangibles of the game, the details of the game, his ability to grasp the system right away, very high hockey IQ. I think what we didn't see enough of out of him, which we'll see this season, I'm sure, and we saw spurts of it, but he's got a lot of speed. Mm-hmm. And if he can get that, kind of into his game, his offensive side will improve. He's one of those guys that maybe we're not looking for, to be a 20-goal scorer per se. He's more of a guy that is dependable to be a third-line checking type player that's very good at penalty killing, which I thought he was. Sacrifices, like he doesn't play a real heavy game, but he'll hit, and he's a well-built kid. He just brings a lot to the game where he's not going to, end of the day, he's not going to be the superstar. He's not going to be the guy that everybody points to and says, oh, I want to buy his shirt type thing. He's not a LeBron James. But he's the guy that helps the whole process get done. And that's what Stewie brought this year, this past season. Jackson Leaf, I mean, my hopes and expectations when we traded for him were exactly what we got out of him. And he brought that veteran presence. Being on multiple teams last year, coming in, he was kind of actually a little bit, he couldn't believe again he got traded, and it was one of those situations where we then get him and he plays and produces and contributes the way he does, and I shake my head on how he didn't stick on another team, and I'm sure you guys see the same thing, yeah. And so. That was a trade that I really believe that we made out on that one because he became such a invaluable player to us in a lot of situations, and situational being the dressing room. Like he's not a vocal guy, like he's not a raw guy. He's not that guy that came in, but when you learn from watching what other guys do, and you could just see it that early in when he got here, his patience with the puck, like the plays that he was making, his exits out of the zone, he didn't panic. There was no panic in his game. He wasn't flipping pucks into the middle just to do it because he thinks that was the right play. He took his time with the puck, made some great plays at any part of the season once he got here, playing with Jimmy and Cromer for a majority of the time, and then Stewie was with those two guys. They were our dominant line most nights, and made the difference. Won us games, and won us games not only from the scoring stand, but you flip the page, keeping the other team's top lines off the scoring sheet. So, Jackson is a guy that. He wants to play. He wants an opportunity to basically stay with a team for a season and establish himself. And I definitely think that's what he's headed for here.
And I think to your point, I think that's why Jackson Leaf and his signing is maybe one of the more exciting signings that we've seen, just as the reaction from our fan base, including myself. And if you could help me just put a magnifying glass a little bit more on Jackson Leaf to maybe some fans that might see this as the norm, which we're hoping at a Jackson Leaf. But this was a guy that wasn't really a 0.8 points per game player, a year ago, 2 years ago. I mean, he's more maybe a half point per game guy or less on occasions, but it was the seamlessness of his game when he joined the Oilers that made you realize this has been a part of his game all along? You didn't just figure something out, it seemed. It just maybe found a way to find execution on the ice. Was there anything kind of just in your personal relationship with him, getting to know him as a player, that maybe helped him hit the back of the net? I mean, he had quite the performance in the playoffs. He had quite the performance on the ice, almost a point per game player in the regular season.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm not going to pat myself on the back here, but a lot of times maybe you just click with a certain coach, and maybe I saw something that maybe other guys hadn't, and used him in the way that I believed he could have the most success. Again, I can't speak to Cincinnati. I can't speak to, he started in Allen last year. He was somewhere else, was it Greenville? Yeah, I mean, he really bounced around last year, but when I brought him in, I kind of just let him know what I was expecting out of him. Jackson, on the other thing too, he's got some sneaky skill that probably we were able to take advantage of last year. That again, maybe with other teams he wasn't in that situation to play that way. And it's hard for me to really pinpoint what I did that maybe another coach hadn't done with Jackson. But I had multiple conversations with his dad. His dad was in Fort Wayne. He's from Fort Wayne. We were there, I think, two games after we made the trade. His dad preceded me in Fort Wayne by a year. Like he retired the year that I went to Fort Wayne, which had been my first year pro. And so we had some guys that I played with, not acquaintances, but old former teammates that he knew. And we had a good conversation. They were in Kalamazoo, and that evening in Kalamazoo, he said to me, he said you're allowing him, he's flourishing under you because you're allowing him to play his game. He was in Allen later in the season. Told me the same thing. I mean, it was nice to hear, but that was his dad seeing. And here's a former pro hockey player himself, and he sees what Jackson could potentially bring. And again, whether I just allowed him to play his game and what we saw is exactly what we needed, I don't know. But he definitely had a great run with us last year, and it's not a fluke. Like he's a quality hockey player. He's a good hockey player, and he's going to have success again for us this season.
And just to kind of wrap things up, of course, every team busy in the off season, and affiliates no different with that. This is the third of 3 years with the affiliation deal with the Ducks, and over the last week and a half now. They announced their new head coach in Roy Sommer, and then on top of that, of course, earlier at the end of the regular season with Anaheim, they had a general manager change as well. Do you have an existing relationship with Roy, the new coach out there in San Diego? And of course, obviously, they're very busy. You're very busy this time of year. Have you guys been able to kind of maybe have a chat about the upcoming season?
Yeah, Roy and I are I don't know that you call us friends, but we're acquaintances through the game, and I've had multiple opportunities to have discussions with Roy through the years. We coached against each other. He was in Worcester, I was in Providence. The year that I went to the as an honorary captain the American League All-Star game, he was the coach of the team that I was kind of hanging around the whole time. So we had a lot of time to chat then. He's a very good hockey man. The success isn't a fluke that he's had through the years. But one of the things that he's done very well, and I saw it through the years in Worcester, he had Pavelski there for a while, and I mean, he develops players, and that's what you're looking to bring at the American League level. Yeah, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to win the Calder Cup, but your first and foremost job as an American League coach is to develop players for the NHL, and Roy has a great track record of that, and he's been everywhere. I mean, even I think he was in Kentucky when when they had a team. I played, I was when I was playing, and so he's been around a long time, and I've played against him, I've coached against him, and I've had the opportunity to meet him and talk to him away from the game multiple times. So yes, I've reached out to him. We've texted back and forth, and so I think it'll be a good situation for us where I do have some familiarity there with him. Now again, going out, I was able to go out to training camp last year in the American Hockey League in San Diego had it in Anaheim, but I was out in Anaheim last September. And I got to know Joel Bouchard pretty well too in that little time that I had there. So you're all kind of cut from the same cloth. I mean, you talk hockey, and Roy definitely is one of those guys. He's a good hockey man, good, and is a good man. I don't know much more to say than just that. And then Pat Verbeek, Robbie DeMaio, Pat Verbeek being the general manager now in Anaheim, Robbie DeMaio taking over the GM spot with San Diego. I think that in my conversations with our affiliates, Bob Ferguson, who was kind of been our go-to, he was the general manager in San Diego. He's taken more of a prominent role back into the hockey ops side of it. The best way to put it was kind of pushed aside a little bit, and he was more, kind of the maintenance of the team opposed to the hockey side of it, the hockey up. So Bob's back involved quite a bit more with that. So, with free agency right now, the NHL draft turns into the development camps that everybody had, and then right in the middle of that, free agency opened up. So, they've been busy, but my hope is that we'll see more support from them this year. Well, it was a tough year last year. I can't lie. We didn't see many players. We had LaRose for a bit. Maxey was here. Call it half the season. Rosie was up and down, but it'd be nice to get a little bit more support, and I hope that I'm optimistic and that will be the case this season.
Well, it's a good first episode, I think. I'd like to say I think so. Pat
no
ourselves
doubt.
on the back, and
It's only July. So.
only July, and as we said, this is the Pipeline Podcast. We'll keep it going throughout the year. Probably some more frequency in it as we get closer on. But keep your eyes peeled and your ears tuned in for this as we go week to week. We'll do some player announcements through it, and of course keep everybody up to date on everything going on. But first episode in the books, and we'll catch everybody in the next episode.